During the Game Awards, Square Enix shadow dropped DLC for Final Fantasy XVI and announced the second part of DLC to come out in spring 2024. In today's video, we're going to be going over the first part, which is Echoes of the Fallen. But before we get into that, I just want to shout out Square Enix for providing me a code for the DLC so I can get my thoughts, my opinions, and the footage you're going to see together for this video. Though none of this will affect what I'm going to say. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Got you covered with timestamps down in the description, so if you want to skip to a certain section of this video, feel free to do so. All I ask is for you to support the channel and hit the thumbs up button. So this video is going to be a little bit different. If you want to know my initial opinion of Final Fantasy XVI, I've got a few videos up here in the cards. Check them out so you know the contents of where I'm coming from. But in a nutshell, I really enjoyed 16. It was my game of the year in 2023, and I'm thoroughly excited for the DLC. Now, if I was to nutshell the DLC for you guys that just want to get to the point, it's short, it's sweet, and it was very enjoyable. So if that's what you were after, thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the flip side. But for those that want to know a bit more information on how I got to that decision, let's dive straight in. So I have not played Final Fantasy XVI since I got the Platinum Trophy, going through Final Fantasy mode and trying out some of the harder content because action games were not my forte, but I really like the way that Final Fantasy XVI handled it. So I have been very excited to go back into it. But with most games, when you go back after a long while, you forget a lot of things. You have to reacquaint yourself with the controls. And that's what I spent a majority of this DLC doing. When I say a majority, I just mean like the intro. And I really like the way that this kind of handled it. And I don't know if it was intentional, but the way you kind of go through the DLC, it takes a little bit to get to the DLC dungeon, but I used this little bit to reacquaint myself with the controls and the combat, get used to my loadouts, and just kind of go back into the mode that I was playing. I went back into Final Fantasy mode. I think I was level 99 starting off, but I went through, reacquainted myself, and I was ready for the dungeon, or so I thought. So I really like that way that was handled, but I guess if you're playing the DLC straight after the game and you may have not been a fan of all the way that side quests were handled, this may be a little bit tedious, a bit overwhelming, and a bit long-winded. But I think the key with Final Fantasy XVI is if you are patient, you are rewarded with what you want from Final Fantasy XVI, and that's its story. So let's dive in and not really go into spoilers. This takes place, or you can access this DLC just before you go to Origin. That's the only spoilers I'm going to have for the main game, but essentially that's where it takes place. You go to Karen and she tells you about this crystal, and then the kind of side quest kind of sets off, the DLC starts. And I guess the story, just like the base game of Final Fantasy XVI, it was nice to experience again. The voice acting, the characters, and a few new characters as well. Even though that one of the new characters kind of sounded like Gav, it might have just been me, but we had a cast of characters that supported this DLC along with Joshua and Jill and Torgal, of course. And that's really added to the story, and I enjoyed the story and the lore it had to offer in terms of when it came to the Fallen. Remember, this is called Echoes of the Fallen, so we get more lore on the Fallen, and I did enjoy it. I just wish we had more, and that's going to be a mainstay of this kind of conversation. I wish there was more. So let's dive straight back into combat and talk about the dungeon. The dungeon is quite big. It's really visually impressive. We go into a fallen ruin, a door that I was really questioning on my main playthrough back in June when I was playing Final Fantasy XVI. Like, what does this door do? Why is it here? Is it for DLC? It was for DLC, and we go into that door in the dim and we enter the dungeon, and the way the dungeon's handled is really nice. It's a really action-packed dungeon with some really challenging fights. Remember, I played this in Final Fantasy mode, even though I was level just under 100, and just reacquainted myself with the controls and dodging and all of that in between. It was quite challenging, especially when it came to the final boss fight. Let's talk about it without any too many spoilers. I might have a bit of footage thrown up while I'm talking about this, but what a fight. I got my fair share of deaths, but this was really exciting, really intense, and really kind of, you know, good to read the enemy, watch its attack patterns, and try and use my knowledge and what I reacquainted myself to combat and overcome the final boss. I guess that's pretty much in a nutshell what it is. I just really, really wish there was more. This was short and sweet. I got this done within like 2 hours, and I really feel like it should have been a bit more. I mean, we did get the Buster Sword as a DLC bonus, and it was really nice to see the Buster Sword, Clive wielding it around. I did use that as the sword appearance for this playthrough, and we did get a couple more weapons and a couple more accessories, which really could help out people that like to go through arcade mode. I didn't tinker around with them too much, but there are a few things for people that want longer playthroughs or going back through the stages and playing it on Automaniac, for example. There are things there, but I'm not that well versed of a player. I could try it and I could fail, but that would be pretty much as far as I will go. I just wish there was more. I wish there was maybe another dungeon we could go through. I wish maybe there was a bit more lore of the Fallen for us to go, but I guess what we got, it was nice. We got more story, we got more characters, we got a few more new features included in the kind of characters and the myths of the realm, and we can see what the characters are thinking at certain stages throughout the story, which is really nice. Torgal's got some great little thoughts of all the characters throughout the story. That's really nice to play around with, and we do get a few new unlockables just for cosmetic sake as well. But again, it was very, very short, much like this video. And I guess the last thing I want to talk about is the music. It hits like always. I guess if I was to sum this up without spoiling anything, if you were a fan of Final Fantasy XIV music or a fan of chicken tenders, for example, you will like the music here in Echoes of the Fallen. I absolutely loved it, and I'm very excited to see what the next piece of DLC is. It seems that this is going to be a lot longer. They say in around 8 to 10 hours. We get to go to see Leviathan, and we get the actual Leviathan abilities. We get an icon fight, and we get new locations to traverse. So I'm hoping that maybe they might sneak a few mini games in there, but that's just wishful thinking. So there is my short and sweet review of Echoes of the Fallen. I enjoyed it. Did you? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified of the content, hit the thumbs up button, get involved in the comments, and until next time, I'll catch you on the flip side.